Good morning, dear students. We are studying about the changing role of the public sector, and we are next we have to study the sixth point, that is government policy towards the public sector since 1991. The government of India had introduced four major reforms in the public sector in its new industrial policy in 1991. The main elements of the government policy are as follows. You might have already heard about this one. 1991, the year 1991, there was a reform was made. Okay, so the India was the way that India's industrial policies were before that and after this is entirely different. So lot amount of changes have been taken place in the 1991. So we can say that the year 1991 is a very changing year in the history of the Indian economy. Okay, so there are four major decisions that have been taken place in the year 1991. So the first one is called as restructure and revive potentially viable PSUs. PSUs means that public sector units. So restructure and revive potentially viable PSUs. Restructure means to redesign, change the structure of the organization. And revive means to renew, okay, change, or that is also building newness into them. So potentially viable PSUs. Potentially viable means that which can be changed or which can be improved. If any, see, like there are so many public sector units and in that few industrial units were there which can be recovered. So many in the year 1990s it is observed that many of the companies in India is not performing up to the mark, or many of the companies are running in huge loss, and it became a burden for the government. So that is why the government has to take such kind of decisions. So earlier so many companies were in the hands of the government, and after that they have to reduce the amount of investment in the companies. So that is why they have decided. So restructure and revive the potentially viable PSUs, okay, which can be changed if there is, which can be recovered. Such type of companies are there. So those companies have been revived or changed, renewed. Okay. And close down PSUs which cannot be revived. Some companies which we know that, see, like whatever we do, so that they have conducted a study on different companies, and some companies it is people have observed and found that some companies can be changed or can be recovered. Some companies cannot be recovered. There means there is no chance in improvement in such kind of companies. So such type of companies has to close down. Okay, there is no any other way. See, like if you are running a company and if there is any type of business, okay, so you are doing a business and you find that there is no profit in this business, and you have to study that what may be the reason. Okay, maybe that like the method of production may be wrong, or the product quality may be wrong, or any kind of issues will be there. So such type of problems are there. Then you have to renew that. If there is a problem in technology, you have to upgrade the technology. You have to purchase a better machine. If there is a problem with the quality of the product, you have to upgrade the quality. So if you want to improve the quality, you maybe have to improve, purchase the higher quality raw materials. Okay. So such a way you can improve if there is possibility. And if in some companies which is not possible to improve, okay, so such products are not required at all, or such things cannot be, such companies cannot be revived. Such kind of companies has to be closed down. And bring down government equity in non-strategic PSUs to 26% or lower if necessary. Another important decision is that bring down government equity in non-strategic PSUs, so which is not very much important. So such kind of companies are there. So their investment, earlier 51% or more shares were held by government, but reducing the amount of shares to 26%. 26 means the quarter. Okay, 1/4 of the total or more. Like 26% is that 1/4 of the total shareholding is held by the government, and even less than that if it is not required. So that can be done like that. So government holding can be reduced. Okay, so that is the another decision. And the next, fully protect the interest of workers. So there are, so protect the interest of the workers. So there are so many, if a company has to close down, then those employees are there, they will be losing job. Okay, so such type of employees, either they have to be promoted, either they have to be given job in some other field, or they should be, even in a private sector, they should get some benefits. Okay, so protect the interest of the employees. That is another important aspects. Now let us discuss these points in detail. So first one, reduction in the number of industries reserved for the public sector from 17 to 8 and then to 3. So the number of industries, so earlier in the beginning you can say that the some kind of companies or some type of industries were reserved only for government. So such type of companies can only operated by the government. So around 17 industries were there in the hands of the government. Means that those businesses any private sector company cannot enter. They cannot start any business. So that was the rule. And that 17 companies, 17 industries were there. Out of that, other companies, almost 9 companies have been left by government, and only 8 industries will be held by government. 8 areas, not just one industry, that areas, like we can just say like atomic energy. Okay, so this related to atomic energy, any business cannot be done by the private companies. Only government will be able to do the business in regarding that. Okay, so earlier there was 17 areas were fully dedicated for the government. Private sector cannot start businesses there. Such type of areas were there. And after that, that number has been reduced to 8 and then to 3. Okay. In the 1956 resolution on industrial policy, 17 industries were reserved for public sector. In 1991, only 8 industries were reserved for the public sector. They were restricted to atomic energy, arms and communication, mining and railways. So these were some of the companies or areas where the government was holding only only government companies were allowed to operate in these type of businesses, like atomic energy, arms and communication, mining and railways. So all these type of 8 areas were there where only government sector has to operate, and private sector were not given permission to enter into this. Okay, after that, then in 2001, only 3 industries were reserved exclusively for the public sector. These are atomic energy, arms and rail transport. Only after 2001, again the policy has been changed. Earlier, in 1991, 8 industries were given to public sector. But afterwards, even some of the companies again has been given to the private sector, and in the year 2001, only 3 industries were handled by government. That is called atomic energy, then arms and this Indian railway. Okay, so now we can say only 3. Now also these 3 units are held by government, but in like railways and or some kind of the government is still planning to hand over these type of businesses also to the private sector. Like railways already has been given to a private company. Okay, not fully, some part of that, and as a trial they are testing it. And you might have seen in the newspaper and all, or regarding just connected with the coronavirus situation, many of the Indian government holdings were sold out to the private companies. Many of the things or many of the industries which were held by government has been, even some airports which were held by government, and all the like railways. Even in railways we can say earlier the like metro railways and so on were there. That also was held by government, but now most of the metros are handled by private companies. Okay, and even afterwards the even railway will be sold to the private companies. Okay, so some still now this is already started, private companies started running trains. Okay, it is just like a trail, it is done. Afterwards, if it is found successful, then even other railway sector also will be given to the private sector. Now only 3 sectors are there held by the government, and that also can be given to the private sector soon. And public sector would this meant that the private sector could enter all areas and except the three, and the public sector would have to compete with them. So these are the only these three areas where government sector has to handle fully, and private sector companies cannot enter into this type of areas. The public sector has played a vital role in the development of the economy. However, the private sector is also quite capable of contributing substantially to the nation building process. Therefore, both public sector and private sector need to be viewed as a mutually complementary parts of the national sector. Private sector units also have to assume greater public responsibilities. Simultaneously, the public sector needs to focus on achieving more in the highly competitive market. So now we can say that majority of the companies are held by the private sector. So the responsibility, or we can say that the importance of these both the sectors are very much higher. Private sector also has a responsibility for the nation building as well as the public sector. Public sector already has got a power, or it is held by the government itself. And the private sector companies also need to be improved. There are so many companies which are helping the development of our country. And see, like if in a country, if any company is producing product, it will be added to the GDP, gross domestic product of the country, and the development of a country is fully connected with the GDP of a country. So whatever things, even if we are producing any product, that also is added to the GDP of the country. So every like even it is private sector or public sector, everything is added to the nation, and all have to cooperate each other. Then only the country can be successful. Just by only by private sector also cannot be successful. Only by public sector also a country cannot be successful. So the coordination of both the private sector as well as the public sector is very much important for the development of a country. So we have to sit with that both the areas are developed in private sector and public sector combined together to go forward and achieve success. Okay, so the remaining portion we study in the next class. Thank you so much.